And now FedEx Chairman and CEO Fred Smith, moments away from testifying on Capitol Hill to talk about America's dependence on oil, and foreign oil in particular. He's trying to end that through electrification of the ground transportation system, as they're calling it. It'll be plugging your car in or your FedEx truck and just rolling. He joins us first on CNBC to give us a peek at the plan. Mr. Smith, good to see you, and we appreciate your fitting this in before you go in front of the committee. So is this basically you coming out and saying, look, I know I've got all kinds of options for alternative fuels, but electric is the one that FedEx is behind?
Yes, that's in a nutshell what it's saying. But, Aaron, it's not just me. It's the Electrification Coalition, which is a large group of companies that have studied the issue very intently and believe that electrification of light-duty vehicular transportation is really the key to eliminating our dependence on imported petroleum from hostile parts of the world. So for FedEx right now, recently I was speaking to the CEO of DHL, who's also doing various efforts, and electric was one of his big ones. But he said he's still at sub 5% of his overall fleet using electric or alternative fuels. What are you at as a percent of your fleet, whether that's truck or plane, for alternatives at FedEx? Well, we have about 85,000 vehicles in all of our systems and operating companies. I think we'll have about 400 hybrid electrics in service at the end of this fiscal year. We have a very small number of all-electric vehicles, 15 in Europe, and we're just prototyping a half dozen or so out on the West Coast, but they're very, very promising.
And do you think, I mean, obviously we have a long way to go, not just for your fleet, but for the whole country. Do you think that we have, how much money would it cost America to go electric? And in the bill that Congress is looking at, where they're going to give more subsidies to people who buy electric cars in form of tax credits up to $10,000 a car, is that going to do it, or do we need more money?
No, I think that'll do it. I think the recommendations that we put forward in the electrification roadmap that we published several months ago and then had verified by the University of Maryland shows that the total cost to make this transition over a period of 10 years is a little over $100 billion in tax credit in the main. But the significant savings in foreign exchange and in trade, for instance, are in the hundreds of billions of dollars. And that's before you even get into the substantial cost of our military that protects the oil trades. So there's a huge return on investment. Mm-hmm. The study we showed indicated if we keep on business as usual pathways, by 2035, 25 years from now, light-duty vehicles will be consuming about 14 million barrels of oil a day in this country. If you take all of the recommendations we made and the new fuel efficiency standards, which were recommendations we put in place, that number would be about 4 million barrels a day. So these are huge differences you're talking about.
And Mr. Smith, before we go, I just want to ask you, last week, obviously, your numbers came out. People were a little disappointed in your forecast, but when we looked in the forecast, it looked like the reason it was weak was because you were taking planes out of the desert because you had more demand to fly stuff around the world. So in other words, it was a sign of strength, not necessarily of weakness. Let me put that question to you. Is the economy still getting better? Are you confident of that?
Yes, I think the economy is getting better, and the biggest economy in the world is the economy of global trade, and that's definitely getting better. In addition to the issue you just mentioned, we also had about $250 million of increased pension costs, which were caused by our measurement date, which is on May 31st, because of the meltdown in the markets in May. So we're pretty optimistic going into our fiscal year 11.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Smith. Always good to talk to you. We appreciate it. And he's talking about electric vehicles coming up on street signs. We're going to be talking to a man who, well, makes those batteries work. It requires lithium. We'll talk about that with the CEO of a lithium mining company. Now down to Mark.